Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kind of being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Well, you know what? We have Schmookler on hold if we don't have a lot of subjects to cover. In other words, if you guys don't create a whole lot of subject, I'll be playing Schmookler, which is about a half-hour thing. But if we have a lot of stuff to talk about, which I think we probably will, if more people join in, we'll keep that for the podcast, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, how are my peeps doing? In the house right now, we have Eric Hayes. We also have Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. I think you guys are only getting a slight piece of that hurricane, but otherwise, I think you're doing well. As well, we are here with AVQ. AVQ is in the house. He says he's watching from Twitch. As well, we have El Señor E2247, who says, Boss Show, hello relatives. I'm grateful to see you expressing good health. I am grateful that I am expressing good health as well. Where are all my peeps? They are not here yet. Let's make sure that the automatic mail went out before we get started too deeply, and it just went out. It is just heading out. Anyway, we are going to have a great show for you today. We're going to, again, like I said, I have Schmookler on in case we don't get any new topics to cover, in case you guys don't bring new topics in. But we also have the new labels to talk about. And I know many of you understand what New Labels is. New Labels is that organization that is trying to, they don't say this, they try to come across as if they are some sort of a progressive organization that cares about us. But in reality, they are nothing more than the attempt to get President Trump re-elected. Again, don't fall for it. And my friend, Congressman Mark Pocan, who worked with us at Move to Amend to get the 28th Amendment to the Constitution sort of in play, he was one of the co-sponsors of it with us. Turned out to be pretty good. And he has a piece that he wrote in Common Dreams. And I think I'm going to start there. But before, I think I'm going to start there. Everybody knows who No Label is. Put it in the chat if you understand who No Labels is. If you know who No Labels is, let me hear in the chat or give me a call at 281-823-7747. I'd love to hear some of your voices. 281-823-7747. In fact, who will be the first one to give me a call today? 281-823-7747. It's on the screen as well, but I'd love to hear from a few of you. 281-823-7747. I'm very nice to you if you call. I would love to hear more calls. This morning on KPFT, we discussed several things. I wanted to get into detail as far as the why Democratic presidents do much better than Republican presidents as far as the economy is concerned, but I didn't get a chance to get into that because specifically people were enamored with the discussion on drugs. As you know, Biden passed within the IRA that Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act. It turns out that the price of drugs, of 10 very popular yet very expensive drugs, were placed on that list, and now Medicare is going to negotiate with them. We don't know what that negotiated price is going to be, but what I think is, instead of using the negotiated price, I think it is time for the government to enact a particular law that we have in-house. I tell you what, that's where I want to start. even though I didn't put that on the thing, I want to talk about this, and then because I told them on the KPFT show today that I wanted to take up this subject a bit deeper. So you know what? Let me run to my Substack and get to the program, and let's talk about that one first. Let's do that first before we get deep into the program proper. I want folks to this is important, and let me tell you why. A lot of people think that that somehow we don't have recourse with the price of drugs, right? On patents on drugs. Let me see if I can find that out. Okay, right. Sending the record straight up. Okay, great. There is a law called the Bayh-Dole Act. And what it is drugs that were developed with government research at universities, etc. The government can take back the patent for those drugs and manufacture those drugs in the event that these manufacturers can't produce at a price that people can afford. It says, is the Bayh-Dole Act working? Yes, by simply allowing research institutions to own and manage patents on the technology they invent. We have created an environment that has made the U.S. the world leader in innovation. Actually, the act is not placed into effect, and that is what we need to do. I want everybody to study what the Bayh-Dole Act talk about. Because if we want to reduce the price of drugs right now, because President Biden and the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, because that law is allowing Medicare to negotiate prices to bring down the price of these exorbitantly priced drugs, ridiculously priced drugs that we paid for, they are now wanting to take the Biden administration to court to force them to say, no, you can't negotiate on these prices. But here's the funny part. They negotiate with the VA. They negotiate with other entities, with other countries, but they want Medicare to pay full price, whatever they say is the price for drugs. And these drugs, most of them are developed with your tax dollars. Most of them you have paid for. Yes, they did their research and marketing and all that kind of stuff where they spend most of your money on marketing and bribes, but they want you to pay for that drug. Well, there is an act, the Bayh-Dole Act of 1980, that actually allows the government, if we can't get a price, if this drug cannot be made and priced so that people can afford, you can simply go ahead and take over the patent and make the drug yourself. And I think that the Biden administration to threaten these big pharma and say, if you don't drop the prices now, we will take the patents under the Bayh-Dole Act and we will make the drugs. We will pay some company to make these drugs and leave you out of it. I think it is time for us to play hardball. And again, let me just put that act on the screen so that you guys understand what we're talking about. This is the act, the Bayh-Dole Act. Anybody wants to look it up, they can find it and see what I'm talking about. We have the right to do that. All right. So therefore, I want us to know how to fight the big pharma. This has nothing to do with capitalism or any of this sort of thing. This has to do with the legalized thievery of all of us. Remember that. The reason we pay the prices we pay for drugs is that pharmaceutical companies have been given the license by our political neglect to pilfer us, to screw us, to steal from us. Remember that. Remember that. Daniel Edo says, sounds like Egberto wants some good old-fashioned fascism. No, I want some good old-fashioned fairness. What else we've got here? We have Paul Fleming says, on average, prescription drug prices in the U.S. are 256% more expensive than they are in similar countries. Medicare being able to negotiate certain drug prices will lead to significant cost reduction for millions of Americans. Don't forget that every single Republican voted against this. And you know what is the funniest part about it? What's going to happen is the profit margin for drug companies are going to finally get in line with the profit margins of a lot of other companies who are surviving just fine. Welcome aboard, Joe Ginorgio Visal says, I would like an explanation of how no labels operate. Well, no labels operate with a lot of money we can't find. That's who no labels is. We don't know who are all the funders for no labels. But what we do know is that what they're trying to do is disrupt the next election with the expectation that if they can take off a lot of the agnostics out of, meaning the nonpartisan agnostic out of the thing, that somehow because of the passion for people that Trump voters have for him, that he will get elected. So we gotta be careful of that. And let's go ahead and get into that to be exact now. And I'll put it on the screen. The title of this piece written by Mark Pocan, Congressman Mark Pocan, who helped us when we had moved to amend, working on the 28th Amendment to say money is not speech, and it was money is not speech and corporations are not persons. That is the amendment that we were working on then. Anyway, here's what Mark Pocan says. Don't fall for no labels trap is the title of his article. And then he says, they are working behind the scenes to get Trump, an existential threat to our democracy, back in the White House. Okay? When I first came to Congress, I was enamored with the alleged ideal behind no labels and their mission to take partisanship out of politics. A world where people can work together on ideas that help the American people despite ideological differences. When I became a member or a board member of Coffee Party USA, that was our goal. Our goal was a transpartisan goal that we could work on things together. Mike Pocan says, boy, was I wrong. Their nonpartisan agenda is and always has been dishonest. My first disagreement with no labels came when I realized they were only looking out for mega donor special interests, advocating for lowering taxes on the rich and powerful, and weakening regulations for big business, making it easier for them to exploit workers or the environment. After a short while, I became concerned about who was funding them. One day I called them to ask, and they told me they would quietly remove me from their membership rolls. I told them I don't do anything quietly. Again, think about that. I left the organization and the Problem Solvers Caucus. That is a group of people made up of Republicans and Democrats in the House and the Senate that supposedly they solve problems in a nonpartisan manner. Of course, what they mean is they solve it in a corporate manner. But continuing. After a short while, I became concerned about, I left the organization and the Problem Solvers Caucus. Then no labels got involved in electoral politics. In 2014, they endorsed Republican Cory Gardner for Senate, despite the fact that he was challenging Mark Udall, the sitting Democratic senator from Colorado. So much for no labels. Late last year, it was reported that the organization is rife with toxicity and corruption. No labels is apparently taking a page out of Donald Trump's playbook. Fast forward to today. No labels is now working behind the scenes to recruit a third-party candidate for president if President Joe Biden and Donald Trump are the two nominees. This is a recipe for disaster. Instead of staying out of the current presidential race, No Labels is setting up this scheme to be a spoiler in 2024 presidential election to prevent Biden from being reelected. They are working behind the scenes to get Trump, an existential threat to our democracy, back into the White House. Why are they doing that, though? They're doing that for a specific reason. You see, Biden came into power as a neoliberal. So they thought, okay, Democrats coalesced around Biden. Biden is a neoliberal. Biden is one of us. He will protect the wealthy. He will be a little bit more progressive than any Republican would be, but he will hold the fort down for us. He won't get crazy. He won't do things like cause the pharmaceutical companies to make a lot less money by negotiating drug prices. He won't call out the corporations as being profiteers when they cause inflation. He won't do any of that. He'll just play ball. Well, you know what? Joe Biden didn't do everything progressives wanted, but the other thing he didn't do is that he didn't play ball. So he became an existential threat to rich people. Biden became an existential threat to rich people, even as he's not doing all the things progressives want. But he's doing quite a bit of what people want. All right? They know what they're doing. No Labels doesn't want a president in the White House who stands up to corporate interests like Joe Biden. They want someone like Donald Trump who turns a blind eye to rules, regulations, and laws. No Labels isn't even hiding it anymore. They just announced they are on the ballot in 10 states, including Arizona, Nevada, where President Biden won by a very narrow margin in 2020. No Labels knows that advocating for a third party is only going to take votes away from Joe Biden and attempts to give the Electoral College victory to Donald Trump. Candidates like Joe Manchin or former Utah Republican John Huntsman will only take votes from Biden, not Trump. Again, I remember Biden has some issues. A lot of people are still looking at the age issue, etc., right? No Labels is doubling down on this anti-democratic approach. One of their billionaire donors is Harlan Crow, the same Harlan Crow who has been acting as Justice Clarence Thomas' benefactor, taking him and his extreme MAGA wife, Virginia Thomas, on trips all over the country. Now, why would major Republican donor Harlan Crow give money to No Labels for a third-party candidate? Because he understands it's all just a ruse to get Donald Trump back into the White House, to cut taxes on the wealthiest Americans, to eliminate regulations for polluters, and to push for an extreme agenda. Reporting has only begun to scratch the surface of these anti-democratic plans for No Labels. But until they break through, we need to speak out. No Labels is counting on you and me to go along with their plan. They know many Americans are disillusioned with the two-party system and want to vote for someone other than a Democrat or a Republican. But this is not the way to do it. This is sabotage in the most anti-democratic way. Don't fall for their trap. Don't be duped. Mark Pocan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You continue to be one of our progressive heroes. And you are absolutely right with this. All right, anyway, Bridge MCP is in the house. Welcome, Bridge. Welcome to us. Welcome. Let's see. I'm going to go up to the chat right now. We see, sound like Egberto wants some good old fascism. I think you know better than that. E2247 says Bayh-Dole Act or Patent and Trademark Law amendments, legislation permitting ownership by contractors of invention arising from federal government funded research. But the clause in there to take it back. And that's what we have to work on. Michael Rudden says Biden negotiates for 10 drugs. A good start. 10 down, 19,000 to go. I agree. Eric Hay says vaccine mandates coming on drug just being tested on mice, not humans. Don't know what you're talking about. Daniel Ledo says fascists also say they are just using state power to force the private sector for fairness as well. Walks like a duck. No. Let's get this clear. The private sector were parasites who use our money to develop something and then try to sell it back to us what we paid for develop at extreme prices. That's not that. The people who are doing something wrong there are not us. It's the pharmaceutical thugs. All right, let's continue. Michael Ronan says, let's see. Paul Fleming says, sowing racism, xenophobia, and division creates life or death dangers for millions of people, but the MAGA Republicans, it serves to divert attention from the economic plunder by the ultra-rich. They want people to fear one another rather than unite against the oligarchy. My biggest concern about that, Paul Fleming, and first of all, you nailed it, is that good people, there are a lot of very good conservatives, there are a lot of very good MAGA folk, that their minds are just fried because they wake up to Fox News, they listen to Newsmax, and they go to bed on OAN, and their minds are fried. It's a world that these guys have learned how to build psychologically. They know that pumping them with that same repetitive, simplistic information 24/7 eventually gives their minds what we call muscle memory in the minds, that corrupts their thinking, that deter them from doing any sort of critical thinking. And that is what we have to fight. That is what we talk about, geometric progression in the way we inform people, right? So that's the issue right there as I see it, brother Paul Fleming. Paul Fleming says, Governor Greg Abbott's official push National Guard troops to misuse federal resources for state-sponsored spy ring and punish officers who raise concerns. We need a full federal investigation of this incident. This incident will set a dangerous precedent for domestic surveillance of U.S. citizens. It's amazing what these guys do and attempt to get away with. Eric Hayes says, nonpartisan. Key. It's not nonpartisan. It is plutocratic. And plutocratic is generally associated with the Republican Party. Daniel Ledo says, oh my God, are you starting to see the leftist agenda? The sowing you decry has been the leftist SOP for decades. You keep trying, my dear Daniel. Let's see what else we got here. Michael Rodden says, Egberto, what you just described about lowering corporate tax rates and deregulations, which uncap corporations from screwing the people and polluting the world, is what the Republican Party was for Reagan's time until Bush's time. And deregulation with uncap corporate first. I'm not sure if I completely understand what you're saying there, Michael. Lee Grant says, so no labels is a Trump-funded psyop? Nope. Trump doesn't have the power, okay? Trump is just the instantiation of the evil of the plutocracy. That's all Trump is. Trump is played just like everybody else, but he's a good player. But he's played like everybody else, okay? All right, Eric Hayes says, Egberto, no labels does not have an Iker old one, and Mr. B won't even make it. All right, you can say that. I mean, I'm glad that you have a crystal ball. We have Paul Fleming says, a U.S. judge has ordered Donald Trump's former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, to pay fines in a defamation case involving election workers in Georgia, a court filing show. And even before the sentence, he has to give them $100 and something thousand. I love it. These crooks are finally starting to pay. We just have to keep the pressure on. Michael Rodden says, link not working. This Paul's article, HTTP Reuters. Okay, help them out there, brother. All right, we got here no labels. What else? Daniel Ledo says, Biden has created millionaires, but here and abroad. Okay, wow. Eric Hayes says, Biden is a millionaire. Yes, I would imagine he is. Michael Rudden put up a new link that's from the Texas Tribune. Check it out. Bayh-Dole Regulations Code, federal, that's what I was mentioning before. Daniel Ledo says, so no more democracy is bad. So more democracy is bad for democracy. Leftist logic can seem confusing. No, your willful ignorance to what we're saying is what it is confusing logically, though. All right, Paul Fleming says the Biden administration has proposed giving raises to more than 3 million workers by making them eligible for overtime pay. Workers making less than about $55,000 annually would be automatically entitled to time and a half pay under Dole's plan, up from $35,568 set in 2019 under Donald Trump. Very good. All right, Breach came up with the link for the defamation suit. Thank you, Breach. Ledo, thank you for your effort. You may go now. Lee Grant says PDR getting into Alex Jones land with nullable, with no labels phobia. Nope. I have been talking about no labels for a long time. In fact, I met when I worked with not worked with Van Jones, but when I used to attend Van Jones had a something the dream that I was a part of, and we used to fly to Washington D.C. and he would have these great rallies in D.C. and panels and so forth that I would go to, and I have an interview that I did here with Van Jones, and back then we were talking about things like no label. I don't think no label had been formed yet, but we knew this was coming. This is the answer. No labels is the answer to America getting smarter, to America starting to effect what it wants, which is more progressive values. So we knew this was coming. Let's see. AVQ says, Egberto, I like the idea of a third-party runner, but no labels is likely to siphon more never Trump conservative vote that they will from Democratic voters. Yeah. No label, but again, you don't want a no labels in the fashion that no labels is. No labels is a fraud. No labels is a plutocratic thing. The third party we want has to be grassroots and really touching the people. That's what we want for third party. Bridge MCP says, Egberto, I kind of miss the no labels read. Do you have a link? Of course I have a link, my dear beautiful lady. And here is the new labels link. I just put it in the feed. Let's see what else I got here. I need to scroll back up because when I put that in there, it kind of came down. There we go. Michael said conservatives are entirely cynical in their support for no labels. They think a third party will siphon more votes from Biden than never Trump voters for Trump. They are going to be proved wrong again. I am not sure about that. I honestly am not sure about that, Rudnin. Daniel says fascists call businesses parasites as well. Talk like a duck. I mean, a lot of businesses, that's exactly, they fit the perfect definitions of a parasite. They're enslavers. Remember what I've taught you, Ledo. When folks like me were slaves, we had to be clothed, kept healthy, and fed. They were minimal, but we had to because we were but capital. And the master didn't want to lose capital. It meant every slave that died, every slave that didn't multiply was actually a burden, right? It reduces wealth. Employees are told the same things like that slaves were told. Where to work, what time to work, what to do. But the only difference is they don't owe you health care. They don't owe you food. They don't owe you clothing. They say, I'll pay you this. Make do however you can. And if you don't want to, you're expendable. Bye-bye. It's called antiseptic slavery. I know you don't see it that way. But when you see unions are under attack, etc., that is exactly the reason. Because we're trying to move from antiseptic slavery to where workers really are stakeholders. Learn and understand, my dear brothers and sisters, specifically Daniel Ledo, who seem to not understand that he is but a slave in this cog, right? All right, let's continue. Why was a sniper told to stand down in Afghanistan that could have killed a terrorist? I have no idea what you're talking about. Macaron says, Egberto, the Republican Party went from a pure corporatist party to what they are under Trump. The modern know-nothing, the Tea Party trolls who push culture war nonsense and triggering the libs more than anything else they care about. But you know, the thing about it is, if they win, they still get the power, the elitist portion to do what they do. All right, Mitch McConnell appears to freeze again while talking to reporters in Kentucky. I got it. I actually made a TikTok of that today. Not of him freezing, but saying old people, come on, guys, give young people a break. All right, let's see what we got here. I think I read that one from Michael Rudden already, didn't I? Yeah, that's what I read. Carl Cox says, dropped college class last week, won't graduate in December, will either take an upper level class to graduate next semester or quit college altogether. Don't quit. fulfill the piece that you need to fulfill, no matter what it takes, Carl, and then reward yourself. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Eric Hayes says, MCP, Mr. B stumbles all over the place and can't remember people. What is the point? If you really believe that, it shows you that other people can influence the way you think. Because if you look on TV and see what he really looks like, you realize that you're talking gibberish. All right, Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain is in the house. Welcome, Melanie. She says she's getting in late. E2247 says, Egberto, the name Bay in Baydole sounds like Bai or Bai. He was senator of Indiana. Yeah, I know, you're right. And I should know that. And actually, I did know that. It was Birch Evans Bai. I knew that. But thank you for telling me, for correcting me, my brother. Bridge MCP says, point is, number 1, dislike him but feel bad. 2, defy need to go as well. And 3, should be an age limit in and out. I agree. All right, let's see what else we got here. Peggy Lopez says, Trump life all corporate, Dems and GOP is the puppet of whoever pays him the most. Exactamente, corazón, exactamente. Daniel Ledo says, well, we all know if there was a serious third-party challenge to DJT, that being Donald J. Trump, Egberto would be talking about what a great thing it is for a healthy democracy. Yes, I would. I'm not going to deny that. If I thought a third party would ensure that Donald Trump can't win again, I would support that, and I don't lie about that. And the reason why I don't lie about that is I think Donald Trump is a clear and present danger, and all MAGA Republicans, I think, are a clear and present danger to our democracy. And not that the MAGA Republicans are bad, but that they have ceded their minds to a plutocracy that puppeteers them into doing things that don't only harm them, but harm all of us. There is no solid ground with Egberto. Actually, there is a very solid ground. I'm very consistent in the things that I say. Egberto, it's all about saying whatever the ideology demands, hypocrisy, truth, and people be damned. Oh, really? Well, I think you may be one of the few who believe that in this room. Michael Rodden says, Egberto, as it all comes to a grassroots movement, the third party that I want is the Green Party, but we're failing to establish local runs to state offices as things are now. The Green Party can't win on a national stage. And again, and that's why I stick with the Democratic Party, because from a pragmatist point of view, we have to understand exactly what you just said there, Michael Rudnin. Michael Cisak says, Egberto doesn't understand that it's government leftist programs that enslave people by removing choice. With private companies, you have the freedom to either work with or not. Let me show you, Mike Cisak, why your thinking is flawed. And here's why. Let's just look at healthcare. You like to say you want choices in healthcare, so you can choose. You choose the indirector. The indirector being Cigna or Humana or name any particular insurance company. But by doing that, you're not getting choice. You're getting choices of who best to screw you. Do I want Cigna to deprive me of my health care? Do I want Humana to deprive me of my health care? Or do I want some other insurance company to deprive me of my health care? I have the semblance of choices. However, if I have health care for all, I decide which doctors I see. I decide which medicines that doctor prescribes to me. I decide, or my doctor decide the medicines because he's the one who knows. I decide what hospitals to go to. So you see, Mike, the insurance company tells you what drugs you can take. The insurance company that you decide that you think you have choice in, they tell you what to do. So what I tell a lot of my MAGA friends is you continue to personally enslave yourself by buying the rhetoric and not doing the critical thinking. When you critically think, you realize that, wait a minute, why should I pay a third party to give executives a big pay, to give shareholders a big pay, to overcharge me for medicines? And while I could have healthcare for all, where I can choose my doctor, I can choose my hospital, instead of having a master choose it for me. You see, Mike Cisak, they really teach you how to enslave yourself. And what we're trying to do is to remove the chains from your mind. Removing the chains from your mind. They have you so skewed on leftists, that they keep your minds in chains. All right. Daniel says, communists also call voluntary employment as slavery as well. It's not voluntary employment. You got to work. Paul Fleming says, no charges will be filed against a homeowner who shot and killed a 20-year-old University of South Carolina student who accidentally tried to enter the wrong house on the street where he lived of a mistaken burglary. It's amazing, right? Because it always turns out that most of the people killed with guns that you keep in the home are people that didn't deserve to be murdered. But that's what happens. Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard, my brother, says, why are we talking about a third party without a change in 50-state election process for president? First, we need all states get to ranked choice voting for all states and congressional positions. That stuff needs a lot of work. When I went to Netroots in Chicago, there are a lot of organizations currently working on ranked choice voting. In fact, I have a ranked choice interview that I'll prepare to show you tomorrow. The ranked choice, a lot of organizations working on ranked choice voting, and also at home voting, and also the electoral, what is it called? The Electoral College Compact, which states that since we can't change the Constitution, we know it's going to be impossible to change the Constitution. But if we get enough states that make up 270 electoral votes, those states, because of what the Constitution say, their electors decide who is the elected official. So what they decided is whoever wins the popular vote, the states that make up this Electoral College Compact will all vote for the president who won, or for the candidate who won the popular vote, and making it a true democracy as opposed to a faux democracy that we have right now. So Norman, yes, I agree with that, but there are so many things that we can't do from a constitutional standpoint until we go through the steps. And like I said, from what we did in Chicago, there are so many organizations working on all these things all at once. Bridge MCP says, don't quit. You've come this far. Exactly, Carl. Bridge is right. Eric Hayes says, Egberto, you like Fetterman and Feinstein and Mr. B. All of them are same McConnell issue. Not really. Fetterman is doing fine. Feinstein needs to go home. Biden, people hate when I say this, but I think Biden, well, I'm not going to say that here. Mike Cisak says there is now documentation proving that Joe Biden was in the middle of taking bribes from foreign countries, China, Ukraine, and Bulgaria. There's also new recordings of Joe Biden speaking about such bribes. This is likely why he has been pushing for war in Ukraine, so even more money can be laundered. You keep believing that. You guys are so gullible. If you think that, oh, this stuff just showed up now, we found a smoking gun. You guys are so gullible. I imagine a lot of people are raising money on this. Help us put Joe Biden, help us impeach Joe Biden. You guys keep buying it. They keep sucking your money dry. I mean, they look at MAGA folks and say, this cult, we can get as much money as we want out of them. We just have to keep the energy. We just have to keep that boogeyman coming. Biden, 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 Hunter, Hunter, Biden, Hunter, Biden. And you guys just open your pocketbooks. Keep it up. Keep enriching those few. They love you. They love you. Michael Rudnin says, Republicans are a clear and present danger. Republicans in the chat are about to take what you said about them personally, not realizing that Republicans stand against green infrastructure while the world burns. Again, they don't realize we are protecting them. But that's okay. We keep protecting them. We keep doing the things that needs to be done to save America. They'll come along. I mean, whether they ever accept it or not, who cares? Eric K says, the no bad orange man policy means throw away a whole country and do it at all costs. Is that progressive party via the Egberto just professed? I think you better go ahead and replay my podcast. You may learn a little something, my brother. Let's see what else we got here. Carl Cox says, MAGA Republicans have sold their souls to Trump, the devil. Yes, they have. Michael Rundin says, hey, Daniel, how's about you push ranked choice voting so that a third party run won't be a spoiler to anyone? Michael Rundin also says, well, that's a copy paste. Paul Fleming, welcome. And he says, this from the Daily Beast exclusive. Banks and insurance companies made a last-ditch effort to hide documents that detail the way they unwittingly became part of the Trump organization's alleged scheme to inflate assets. But a judge ruled that the public has a right to see them. Exactly. Michael Rundin says, hey, Daniel, how about I read that one already. But Daniel says, yes, if it is now clear Egberto and crew would burn America to the ground to get Trump. Pathological. No. Trump is doing a good job of that, though. Bridge MCP says, again, the bottom line, there is no evidence to suggest that Joe Biden or the Biden family received money in exchange for political actions. That fact remains unchanged despite the inconsistent and logically incongruous assertions of evidence presented by both Grassley and Comer, as well as Giuliani. Keep trying, guys. Keep trying. Mike Cisak, Egberto, health insurance was built into the system due to FDR wage control. Look, first of all, that's not true, but let's say it was true. It was actually through the unions, brother, but that's another story. Health insurance was built into the system due to FDR wage controls put into Great Depression and World War II in order for companies to pay more without running afoul of wage controls. So we're stuck with the system because government left this spot. No, we're not stuck with any system. All we have to do is shut them down. That's all. It's a law. We can pass a law that says health insurance companies, we'll phase them out. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. It's the corporations that are ripping you off, Mike Cisak, that you are defending, that you are enslaving yourself to, why it remains. If guys like you were to say, all right, I see what Egberto is saying is correct. We could put all the money into healthcare. That makes more sense. It's logical. It's humane. You've got to learn how to say that, though. Anyway, Michael Rodney says, Daniel, yet once again, it's proven he doesn't understand what political terms actually mean. Eric A. says, Egberto, left does well to push big-time rhetoric so the gaslighting machine convinces all evenly. Eric Hayes says, ranked choice voting smells fishy. It smells fishy if you choose not to learn why it makes sense. In other words, you don't throw away your vote. Your vote matters. Ranked choice voting. I want Bernie Sanders to win, but if I vote for Bernie Sanders, but instead as my first choice, but my second choice is Biden. Ranked choice votes prevent the person that has the most support for losing to a charlatan like Trump. It means that people who want anybody other than Trump or other than some bad person can win. It's a very smart system. Learn it before you make a silly comment about it smells fishy. Go study it. Doesn't have to smell fishy. Just go read about it. Michael Rudnin says, insurance, Egberto, I see that ranked choice voting interview. Thanks. Yeah, I have it. I don't think I have another ranked choice interview that you're probably looking for the one like in 2019 or so. But I have a new one from a young lady who's really pushing it. I don't think I did that one yet. I don't think I processed that one yet. But I'm going to process it because it came up today. All right, Michael Rodney says, you don't need a constitutional amendment to change first past the post voting to ranked choice voting. You can just put the question on a ballot initiative. All right. I think it's explained by the person that we spoke about. Jill Stein let us get 45 as Nader let us get Bush. Now Stein is cheering the West campaign. What can possibly go wrong? Why is West doing this? West should be running primary. West has a beef with the Democratic Party. I don't understand why some people can't think pragmatically and think of us all. I wish they did. Eric says, Egberto, you have been doing orange boogeyman attacks and spending since 2016. Oh, if you believe so, that's your choice to believe, sir. Ivy says, E22, More voters voted for the Libertarian Party than the Green Party. More Democratic voters voted for Trump than for the Green Party. You blame the wrong people. Eric Hayes says, our Fed has been inflating assets for years by propping up the market. Now we all pay for it. Haven't we been saying that? Haven't I brought you Patrick Lavelle to discuss that issue? I've given you that. All right. Bruce Pollard is in the house. He says, sorry I'm late. Have we moved on from drug prices? Yes, we have. My concern is taking 5 years to make the cost change. Trump was working on it too, but gave up for some reason because the pharmaceutical probably paid him off. Daniel says there is no evidence except the evidence presented by members of Congress. Bridge, are you okay, or do you really think like this? Oh my God, Bridge is a very smart woman. Thank you very much. And she's one of our important proteges. Gracias, muchísimas gracias. Bruce Pollard, maybe because he was being attacked. Oh. All right, go to California or New York for ranked voting? No, we'll do it here in Texas eventually when Democrats take over, which will be in the next 2 to 4 years. Michael Renner says, Mr. Beat, history teacher explains ranked choice voting. Thank you very much for that. Give it to Eric. Eric needs it. Okay, Michael says, I think I'll go. Man, I'm so tired of this. Okay, don't worry about that. Remember what I've told you, Michael. This discussion is important, even the discussion coming from others that you disagree with, because in the podcast it comes through. All right, Daniel Lado says, hey, tomorrow let's talk about BRICS. Why would you want to talk about BRICS? Do you even understand what BRICS is trying to do? Do you want to hear the story about Africa? And about which country is really rich? All right. Let's see what we got. Brie says, Eric, poor rump being victimized. Poor narcissist, racist, sexual predator, etc. It's amazing how many people support that, right? All right. Lee Grant finally opens his mouth again. My brother says, here are some on New York City migrant crisis. A resident of Queens reports the total count of migrants is either 104 or 107,000, depending on who you talk to. They're spreading all over the city, starting with the shelters, then hotels, and now in respite centers that are opening up old schools, such as St. Agnes here in College Point Schools, and now another in Staten Island. In the later case, 2 attorneys filed suit to have the immigrants removed, but a court overruled them and the migrants are allowed to return to the facility. The influx of illegals into the city is even more catastrophic, as our completely insane city council passed a law in February allowing those permitted to work to vote in municipal election. Look, we need to do something about the migrants that are coming into the United States. We need to process them and we need to set them up as soon as possible. The truth of the matter is, our country needs more people to support, to put it bluntly, to support the amount of baby boomers that are retiring every day. But that's it. Forget about all of that. Let's talk humanity here. A lot of these people are coming over here because of policies America has that has affected these other countries. And the biggest policy is extracting raw goods and returning value-added products to these companies, which give them a net loss and which also mean they continue to get poorer instead of being a more equitable way in working with trade. But that's for another's time. But if you understood all these concepts, you wouldn't simply just look at these immigrants as illegals. You'll start to say, maybe America needs to start developing more humane policies. And that is what it's going to take. All right, Eric K. says economic policy is key. Punto finale. You spelled that wrong, but that's not. Economic policy is always key. Illegals get to vote. What a country. Wait a minute. Let me think for a second. If many people go to other countries, what happens? I think you missed the point. We're probably talking municipal elections where these people pay for water and all these other things, right? Assuming you get them in here. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to try to defend something that I haven't read. But I think it's high time for folks to try to look for their humanity gene. I really think you should look for your humanity gene. But anyhow, El Señor Biden has given MAGA an alert. Don't mess with our funds for hurricanes, etc. And I was very happy that he did it after he heard this particular question. I think President Biden just put Republicans, specifically MAGA, on notice with regards to, can we continue to expect funding for these hurricanes that are coming, these fires that are coming? You know, right now, it seems like the Republicans want to use it as some sort of a cudgel on the president's head. Don't think it's going to work. I want you to listen to what he has to say.
Mr. President, can you assure Americans that the federal government is going to have the emergency funding that they need to get through this hurricane season?
The answer is, if I can't do that, I'm going to point out why. How can we not respond? My God, how can we not respond to these needs? And so I'm confident, even though there's a lot of talk from some of our friends up on the Hill about the cost, we got to do it. This is the United States of America. Yes.
And I think he has to do a lot more. He has to show that we are going to start calling people out now and making a stink about it. I don't think the president or Democrats, for that matter, have been sufficiently active in calling out consistently, continually, what MAGA has been doing. Maybe they'll start, and this time maybe they won't start too late. I sure hope not. I sure hope not. But I mean, I was discussing that on Steve Hunter's show today, that the difference that we have in the way we do our, when I say we, I'm talking about progressives, or not progressives, specifically Democrats, is that they don't keep a consistency of truth telling the way MAGA keeps a consistency of lying. We should be rebutting, and we should be always on the offensive. And sadly, it is something that we don't do. Paul Fleming says, do you know why illegals are interested in voting? They don't want to be deported. But interestingly, let me tell you, the truth of the matter is an undocumented worker who hasn't been found tries hard as hell not to be found. In fact, let me tell you, a lot of those, they talk about how many undocumented folks are in New York. New York has a hell of a lot more than 107,000 undocumented people. Hell of a lot more. There are a lot of undocumented people from all over the world, from Canada, from Russia, from everywhere, that lives in New York City, right? So, I mean, this is nothing new. Right now, what we have is an influx of these people that come on buses sanctioned by the southern governors that only have evil in their hearts. And that has created an imbalance. But undocumented workers have been going into New York for centuries, right? And actually forming being a fabric of that community. All right. So I mean, this is not anything new. Undocumented folks have been coming in all over the country. It's only a specific group of undocumented workers or undocumented people that we so fondly like to attack. All right. Let's see. Biden is so scary. I'm chilled to the bone. How about we give the money going to Ukraine, to America, victims of disaster? I can get on board with that. I figured you would. Until a tornado or hurricane hits here in Kingwood, which is a good likelihood with how hot Galveston Bay is. There's a good possibility we could have those down trees and all these things. I bet you won't be singing that song, Lido. I bet you won't be singing that song then. Remember, the hurricane season is just starting. Well, it started a while back, but it's just going to be getting active now. And we are a bullseye right now in Houston and Kingwood. We should remember that and have some humility. I would suggest we do remember that and have some humility. I'd like to ask folks to please support the program. You can support the program in many ways by going ahead and going to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. We are really, really behind in support. So like to ask you to go to that link and find whatever form that you have the ability to support us. And I'd like to suggest that you get a paid subscription to our newsletter. It's like purchasing a cup of coffee for Politics Done Right. say, I'll purchase a cup of coffee for Politics Done Right because we like what he's doing. We like how he's informing. You should check out my show sometimes in the mornings at KPFT 90.1 FM. Just if you're in Houston, go to the dial, 90.1 FM. You can always watch it on TV here, politicsdoneright.tv, politicsdoneright.tv, or you can find in all the many other channels that we follow here. I'm going to close out this baby right now and ask you guys once again, please support the program. Please subscribe to our newsletter if you have the wherewithal to do so. It will continue to help us do what we do. And if you take a look at how much work we put into this, I know that you will. I am not sure if Daniel Ledo ever supported Politics Done Right. He loves it here. He should kind of support us as well, shouldn't he? Because he stated, "I get your attention because I support." He wants to know how to get your love. Daniel, did you give us? I didn't realize that you supported us. I'll have to look into our records to see if I see a Daniel Ledo as a supporter. But if not, you should. You should. We give you love all the time. We do. But anyway, folks, please support the program. We do, without doubt, need your support. politicsdoneright.com/support. This is how we get all those videos and TikToks and everything done. Also, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to support the newsletter. We simply cannot do it without you. Daniel Ledo says, "No, I would never give 1 red cent to a Marxist propagandist." Well, a lot of people don't consider me a Marxist propagandist, and I'm so happy about that. Thank you guys all for your support. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.